Next, we have the cytoskeleton. A lot like the cytoplasm, it helps to maintain the structure of the cell. So if this is a cell, this is the nucleus, there are tiny little, nearly invisible filaments. Some are called microtubules and some are called actin filaments. Microtubules are long tubes that help to keep the cell upright, and then actin filaments usually branch off from them, and they are much smaller. Together they create a skeletal-like structure that forms the cyto, which means cell, and skeleton. This cytoskeleton not only helps to maintain the structure of the cell, but it also acts as a roadway. There are special proteins, which in this video are being shown by a cartoon-like character. Special proteins, I believe called, I forget. He's just called John in this video, but his actual name is kinesin, I believe. I think because kine means movement. So this particular type of protein helps to move packages. So we talked about packages from the Golgi apparatus. These are called vesicles. Vesicles contain some sort of thing that needs to be transported, whether that be a food, a protein, or what have you. That vesicle is being carried by John here, which is really a kinesin, along actin filament. And so here's kind of a cool cartoon that we'll watch together for this.
Our brain is made of billions of nerve cells, and they're all connected. If we take a closer look, a nerve cell seems to have antennas. Most of them are receivers of...
Remember that nerve cells do not have centrioles. I've been doing my best to draw them throughout this lecture. But here you can see them, and they're transmitting electrical signals all through them.
Information, but only one is a transmitter, called the axon. This axon is connected to several receivers of other cells, forming a gigantic neural network, the brain. Meet John. John is a kinesin, a motor protein. He lives inside a nerve cell, and
Kinesin, so I'll spell that for you. Not that it's going to be on a test or anything, but if you care to know. Kinesin. So kine means movement. For example, in college you can study kinesiology, which is just the study of movement. So this particular protein, its job is to move along the cytoskeleton. And actually, this video, it was shown to me in college because it pretty accurately depicts how this protein actually moves and what it actually looks like. Even the slippers here have a significance because this kinesin protein is known to slip out of what is called by scientists its protein slippers. It is known to slip and break, and that would be, for example, when you try to lift something too heavy, it can actually slip and break.
He has a proper job. To ensure that a brain cell does his job properly, it needs the continuous flow of building materials, proteins. They travel through the cell using the cytoskeleton. If you would compare a nerve cell with a city, the cytoskeleton inside the cell would be the roads, and the traveling proteins would be the traffic. These materials are towed by motors along the roads. And just as in real life, there are different kinds of motors and different kinds of roads. John's sole purpose in life is to deliver his cargo to a specific place in the...
So he's coming out of a garage right now, which is kind of funny. So in this particular scenario, this metaphor, John is coming out of a garage, which represents the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus creates these vesicles and is where kinesins like John live until they start to bring things to where they need to go. So again, the Golgi apparatus is like the post office, and John is like a post office worker.
Axon. He takes the main roads, and he walks in just one direction only. John's job may seem easy, but it's not. He has to overcome a number of obstacles to ensure that the right amount of cargo arrives at the right place. To make the journey even more difficult, John is not alone. Other motor proteins ride along with his cargo. They haven't woken up yet, but that will happen soon.
So in the cell must be able to adapt to its environment. And so sometimes proteins or signals that should be carried through the cell need to change direction. Perhaps some sort of environmental stressor is influencing the cell. To respond and go a different direction, if this package needs to change directions, there will be other kinesins attached. And basically, through environmental interaction, they will fight for dominance in which direction they will go.
The journey starts in the center of the city, just like in the center of the cell. To enter the axon, John has to pass a place called the axon initial segment. In this segment, there are two kinds of roads. The main roads that John uses, called the microtubules, and a lot of little alleys called actin. And here, our brave motor protein meets his first challenge, because one of his sleeping travel companions, myosin, has woken up and starts to cling to the actin. And there are a lot of alleys. Only brute force can save John now. Fate strikes again. The other companion, Dynin, wakes up, and he can only
I think this next part is so great because if you see his slippers there, there's a reason they're all wearing slippers. And that is because when these motor proteins lose their battle for dominance, they slip out of their so-called shoes. And that actually happens if we look under microscopes. That really does happen. And so right now, we're going to have two different stimuli from the environment competing within the cell to create a certain signal cascade. So just watch how that happens.
walk in the opposite direction of John, resulting in a tug of war. But there can be only one. Along the axon in which John travels, there are places called synapses. Here, the axon connects to receivers of the other cells. Regulating proteins call the shots here.
So this does not happen in most cells. It happens in nerve cells. This synapsis is where chemical messages, like what is inside of John's vesicle, will be delivered to help tell the next cell what to do. This is how signals are transferred from one cell to the next.
This traffic police makes sure that all passing traffic gets to the right destination. If John's cargo is needed in this synapse, he will be stopped and myosins take over his load. But today, John's cargo is safe. But what he does not know, that his road is under construction just a few blocks away. In our nerve cells, the cytoskeleton is changing constantly. Roads are built, but are also broken down. Facing this kind of obstruction, John has to find a detour. John isn't the only motor protein on the road. There are many more. Our nerve cells need a smooth traffic flow in order to perform well. A traffic jam due to problems during the journey may ultimately result in brain disease. Understanding the challenges John faces could improve treatment or prevention. Finally, John arrives at his destination. He has fulfilled his destiny. But several other Johns are just getting started.
Hope you like that. A pretty realistic analogy there for our kinesins.